Okay. My name is Mary Murphy, and we are broadcasting from Boulder, Colorado, in northern Colorado, and I am a member of an executive team that has a community project called Grow Your Own Meal, and we are building a demonstration aquaponic food production facility using renewable energy and energy efficiencies to prove that you can grow fish and vegetables in a year-round recirculating environment, given temperature fluctuations in the summer of 100 and in the winter of -20, along with lots of wind and tornado possibilities. And I have with me another gentleman, and his name is...
Hi, I'm Alan Bernstein, and I'm the husband of a husband and wife team that recently started up a new business called the Aquaponics Source. And I'm here today to explain a little of the science that I think that I know an aquaponics system has, and how you might consider using it in a classroom setting.
And this is the system that he has put together with his wife, which you will be seeing in all of the videos that we are presenting, be they educational or just informational about how to actually order this system and do your own home aquaponics.
So I've already in previous videos talked about the biology side of this. I'm now going to briefly go over some opportunities to look at ecology, water chemistry, and physics. So let's start with ecology. I think an interesting way that someone might pose this in a classroom setting to a variety of aged students is to look at the four actors and consider how each of them is acting on their own self-interest, and how that behavior in fact creates an environment where they symbiotically live together. So with that in mind, I would pose some questions to students such as these. What is the aquaponics cycle? What are the natural habitats of all four actors: the fish, the plants, the bacteria, and the redworms? And in those natural habitats, what are the balances that one finds in nature? So how does nature work so that those plants and animals survive, and how does that compare to an aquaponics system? And then I would pose another question, which is, when either a natural or a man-made disruption, or say disaster, takes place, what happens to the previously balanced ecological system, and over time, how does that system recover?
Wow.
So that's one perspective on how you might think about ecology in the system. Now I want to move on to water chemistry. Water chemistry is something that is accessible to preschool kids, and it's also the subject of postdoctorate studies. So it can be as simple or as sophisticated a subject as you want. Let me just pose a few questions that you might consider for a classroom setting. What do the plants actually consume? And now I'm talking about chemistry. What compounds are actually taken up into the plants, and how do those compounds serve the plants? Another question, maybe you get some giggles if the kids are young, but it would be, what actually is fish waste? From a chemistry perspective, what is it? That would lead you to another subject, which is, what is the nitrogen cycle? What is the nitrogen cycle doing when you first turn on an aquaponics system? What happens with the nitrogen cycle in the water over the first month? I'll tell you, it's constantly changing, and it's really interesting. You can monitor all the different aspects with some simple tools, and it would be really enlightening. And then after a month or so, what changes? And how does the system stabilize? So those are some water chemistry questions that I think people could easily get into.
What I think is most amazing about this is because when I was in school, the reason I didn't become a scientist, because we did all these things in books, and I am just not a good book learner. I'm too impatient. I'm constantly moving around. I'm constantly wanting to do something new and different. what I realize about this is all of those things that I was, required to learn from books, you can learn now watching things, live things move, things grow, lighting changing on those things, or I should say living entities. And I think that would make it much more, you would understand better, and you would keep that knowledge better.
And not just watching, actually hands-on doing. From, as we spoke earlier, figuring out all the issues and making all the decisions and maybe learning by some mistakes up through managing the system as it's up and running.
Yes, which is actually that overall concept that we would like all of our young people to understand, the importance of the entrepreneurial spirit, which means trying things, having them fail, finding new solutions, and eventually having it be a success. Not only financially, but also rewarding, because you're doing something wonderful, you're producing food.
Exactly. So I've got one more subject. It will be very quick, although it could be very long, and it's
Yes.
all about the physics in the system. There's no nuclear physics going on, but there are some pretty interesting things, because there's a lot of water moving around. There's a pump, and there's different size containers. So I would just pose some simple questions that students could think about. You've got the...
I'm walking over here and actually going to see if I can see where the pump, at least get the pump location if I can't see it.
I'm going to point. The
Yeah.
pump is down in this corner.
Okay.
It's attached to the end of this line.
Got it.
So here's a couple issues. One must consider the size of the fish tank and how much water it holds, the size of the grow bed and how much water it holds, the fact that the grow bed has media in it which consumes some of the volume, the fact that the fish have to always be in water. So one must figure out somehow the relationship of the size of the grow bed with the media in it to the size of the fish tank, and how much water is going to be in the fish tank and in the grow bed when the pump is running and when the pump is not running, so that all the actors are always okay. That is some fun thinking to be done for different aged kids. Couple that with the pump and how fast that pump flows, and the timer and how long you want that pump running on and how long you want it off. All of that has to be thought through carefully and integrated so that you get a system with all the components working in harmony. I think that's some good basic physics. There's another element to this that is not in this system but right now, but it will be, and it's called a bell siphon. And a bell siphon turns on and turns off all by itself, just by the laws of physics. No timer, no electricity, just air pressure.
Wow.
And it's a fabulous device. We will be introducing one to our system soon, but looking at understanding and making perhaps your own bell siphon would be a fabulous project for a classroom setting. So those are a couple examples of physics.
Well, so we see an enormous opportunity for learning here, plus building a lifelong desire to be a grower of both fish and vegetables, which of course is the ultimate goal of turning people on to this concept in the first place.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. It's been terrific.